Hey, welcome back again. Real quick video, piggybacking off my last two. One of the many things that I've seen has gone awry in this court experience that I have here in Napa, and I'm looking to have it investigated because everything that I've experienced here through this process, it just something don't smell right. It just something smells funky, and I've been saying this since the beginning. I saw in San Diego exactly. I'm in the very same circumstance with what I'm going through for the most part that what happened in San Diego. It was self-represented litigant up against somebody in a family court system who that person was from that family court system by their occupation. They were a social worker for child welfare services in San Diego, and I saw they had a high paid attorney, and the social worker had one, and the person who was trying to get their child back did not. I'm not trying to get my child back. I didn't abandon my child like the other person did, but the dynamic was very similar, and I saw with my own eyes the uphill battle and how things that shouldn't have happened there did happen. And so going into this, I've been wary since the beginning. So I want to ask for an investigation into this because it something don't smell right. I thought that the time had expired for me to request for the court to reconsider the annulment that was granted to Marvin Lee Mays Jr. and Jessica Lopez Anaya, because that impacted my annulment. But so now I have to press forward with that. And if I'm unsuccessful, then I can utilize that to press forward with an appeal. But I'm going to go back in there with what I have that expresses that no, 4 years is the cutoff. And then they have to go through a regular process. So why was that granted? I'm not an attorney. I shouldn't be expected to have to control this acumen. I'm just a regular person. I'm a father going into these battles without an attorney. It just seems unbalanced. And my request for needs-based attorney's fees was also denied based on something that don't make a whole lot of sense. So again, I have to request a reconsideration of that based on X and Y. But something that really bothered me was I'm a veteran and I lost a lot of my brothers, and Memorial Day and Veterans Day were both not granted to me for the vacation. Now, the respondent wanted 2 Mother's Day, Mexican Mother's Day and American Mother's Day, and she was granted that. She was also granted the entire day for the day that my brother was killed in Afghanistan, which is a day that's always been split and shared for that reason. And so she was given 2 Mother's Day and that day, and I was given just like 1 extra day. No Veterans Day, no Memorial Day. They put Memorial Day weekend, but that was already on my weekend, but not Memorial Day. So on the day where everybody else is going laying flowers down for the fallen, I was denied that day. And something like that, it's just like ridiculous that I would have to, now I have to go back into the court and spend more money and ask for that. I reached out to the, before they finalized the vacation thing, I reached out to the respondent's attorney and to the respondent, and I'm going to put up the text message that she sent me on Memorial Day, just like, nah. And it's crazy because I keep having to spend money, and she's represented, I'm not, but I still have to spend money. But yet she projects it out to these people that, oh, he's trying to make it expensive for me. And they came before the court and said that I should not be granted needs-based attorney's fees, saying there ain't no more money left, which is a bunch of bologna. But they're the ones that keep making it expensive by denying these reasonable requests, and therefore it has to go before the judge to have it out there. When there was many emails and opportunities and olive branches that were extended that we could have done this under reasonable negotiation and good faith negotiation, but they flat out refuse. They make it more expensive, then they play the victim, and then they try to say there's no more money, so that would keep me at not having an attorney and enter into these negotiations, when the consequence of that right there, once people find out about that and the significance of that, I mean, there's just no justification. I keep hearing excuses that are kind of like, well, So the choice to just open Pandora's box all the way, that's going to be a rough call. I shouldn't have to do that. I did all kinds of stuff to prevent that. But yet I was cajoled by the behavior and the decision making of the respondent and her attorney, and the system, the family court system, legal aid, and all these people. It didn't help out. I kept being told, go here. I'd go there. They're like, yeah, we can't really do much. So I was just being kept in this circular loop. And then at the end of it, it's like, oh yeah, there was this consequence that shouldn't have happened. And it's like, it's a serious one. It's a consequence that none of them would be able to, would want to be in that circumstance. But yet I was pressed into that circumstance. And I said that since the beginning. I said, y'all are going to make me do this for this. But it really boils down to it's for her, because she represents them, because they let her run freely and doing all the stuff she was doing out there for child welfare services, which impacts all the cases that they've let her have her hand in, potentially. I would think, as a parent or anybody that's here in Napa County that may have had her party to their investigation, when she has all this questionable stuff. But to make it worse, it's like, yo, if that stuff's in the past, you did dirty, but to come into the courtroom now, right here and now in the family court, and still be trying to commit perjury after being caught and going forward, it's abhorrent. But the more research I do across the country, I'm looking at all these different cases with child welfare services in these different counties, and it seems to be like a common occurrence. So how could they deny a veteran who's lost so many brothers, so many, Memorial Day, and Veterans Day, but yet they would grant extra Mother's Day to a foreign holiday in America, but not allow an American veteran who's lost his brothers, who died for the very flag and supporting the nation's interest? They wouldn't allow me to mourn my brothers with my son, but she gets a Mexican Mother's Day. What? And American Mother's Day? So it all begs the question. And all I've asked for is an even playing field and for things to be balanced. But at every turn, I say there's been times where things may have gotten better, but I don't think if I would have came in here with just such a soft whisper, and like I'm told by these attorneys that they're like, oh yeah, you just have to go in there and you can't have any emotion. What? You're talking about my son. You're talking about life and death. Talking about people being murdered and kidnapped and stuff. And these people are talking about, oh yeah, you can't. And I've been hurt in crazy ways, man. But I haven't hurt nobody here. The only one that's been physically violent is Gregory C. Winter when he hit me with them papers right there at the court entrance on the day of court, with the witnesses right there. And he wouldn't have done that to nobody. He wouldn't have done that to no bailiff, nobody that works for the court, another attorney, a judge, nobody. But yet they feel empowered and emboldened to just do whatever because I'm a self-represented litigant. But the difference between me and an attorney, or these people who call themselves colleagues, and they won't do certain things like go to regulatory agencies and request or file complaints and everything. And when you do, they're like, oh, how could he? How dare he? Like when I went to Legal Aid and was making a video when there was nobody there, it was on lunch, the camera wasn't pointed at nobody. The lady tried to lie to me and try to deny me my rights as a citizen, as a tax-paying citizen right here in Napa, to film in a non-protected, it's not in a courtroom where everything can't be filmed or nothing. I was in a place where anybody can go live right there and make a video of themselves and say whatever. But the lady tried to lie and say, oh no, you have to go here. And she got angry when I didn't just sit there and go, oh, okay, sure, yeah. I said, hey, do me a favor, cite that rule and put that in writing, put your name on there. And she got mad. And what did she do? She tried to go call law enforcement and try to send them over to like do whatever. But they were super cool, awesome. You know what? You know who's been like the most stellar and stoic throughout this entire process? I would say the bailiffs and the deputies, hands down. When they saw me out front with the ski mask and the sign, or the baklava, I don't wear ski mask, baklava and the sign, none of them ever were like, over the top or rude or nothing. They were inquisitive, but just like as a courteous, as fathers, as just like people. They've been nothing but awesome, and I appreciate that, because I know that's not always the case. But that individual, that lady that was there at Legal Aid, she tried to whip that up. And when I went over to the county building and I was at HR, who's supposed to be spearheading the investigation, the county supervisors hand the investigation down to HR. Christine Briseno flat out refuses to respond to any emails, any calls. I go in person. I've been filming it, and I've asked to surrender more evidence. I got video evidence that supports the premise that when I went to Child Welfare Services, to Alexis Vossmeyer and to the director, it was a reasonable premise and position based on the history that they didn't want to accept. But instead, they're in damage control. They're like, oh shit, we can't let this stuff get out because it's going to reflect negatively on us. And how did we not catch this? So maybe everybody should see their internal emails. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see, because that would refute the bullshit that they tried to kick to Christine Briseno, saying that they determined that it wasn't, that ain't how it works. And I got the email, and I'm going to read it to y'all from the ombudsman that says, no, that ain't how it's supposed to work. It should have got kicked over to somebody else, but then there would have been a record. Everything, all the evidence that I submitted has to be submitted with that, and it goes into some kind of national database or something. I can't remember exactly how they explained it to me in Sonoma. So they were looking out for themselves, okay? Which is a common occurrence here in Napa with people that are taxpayer funded. Their salaries are paid by the taxpayer, but when it comes down to something, they like to sit there and play the game. And I'm not an attorney. I'm a father. I'm relentless. I was harmed here. I was left to the wolves by Child Welfare Services. I went through all this stuff, and I come back to them and I ask them to protect my son. And then I come back to them and I ask them to protect my son again, and they failed me. But yet me coming in and saying, hey, I'd like some accountability. Oh, how dare he? Who does he think he is? And all this. That's their attitude. They're like emboldened and they feel entitled that, no, you, how dare you as somebody that was harmed here, that we failed, comes out here and you're a father. It's ridiculous. And I'm not going to be moved off my center. I'm only getting started. So I found some stuff today. I thought that the clock had already ran out. It hasn't ran out. Unfortunately, it's ran out. To the best of my knowledge, I had to go look on the calendar. It's ran out on the request I would have to make for reconsidering the my default that I was entitled to, that was set aside for no justifiable good reason other than we like to determine the outcomes of these divorces based on the merits of the case. Well, the merits of this case, I would think would afford me that default, because there was more than enough evidence that the damn respondent just completely just didn't care. She just blew it off like a whatever. There was a court hearing in December. She went to Mexico, did all this stuff, but yet it's like there was no time to just put a response together and submit it to the court. Nah, but they still granted her that default and denied me what was rightfully mine. And I wasn't trying to like say, hey, I want all the assets and all that. I was just like, hey, can you put an end to this marriage? And then we could, my exact words were, in good faith, negotiate everything else. But I should have been entitled to just be divorced right then and there. And when it came to the annulment, what did Robert Stamps do? But he deviated from the 4-year limitation on when you can file for annulment from when you knew. And it begs the question, why? I want to know why. I want to go back before again, ask for a reconsideration. If that don't work, then I go to an appeal. But I'm going to keep on it because it does not make sense. Something don't smell right. And when something don't smell right, more often than not, something ain't right. Hit me.